Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, and it's time for us to get started so we can get folks out of here by 8:30. Seating is a little tight. There's a single chair up here and a single chair over there, so I would invite anybody that's out in the hall and would like a seat to come up and sit in the front. Well, good evening, and welcome to the ISD 196 School Board Candidate Forum. My name is Lynn Lewis, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, Dakota County, where I'm a voter service co-chair. First, a couple of housekeeping items. If you could please make sure to silence your cell phone. And then if you need restrooms, unfortunately, they're downstairs and back towards the elevators, but the light's on now, so you should be able to find them. A couple clarifications about tonight's participants. All 12 candidates for school board were invited to participate in tonight's forum. 9 responded affirmatively and are here tonight to participate. If you wish to submit questions for the candidates, you can do so on the cards that the ushers had been handing out. You may have one already, or you can raise your hand and they'll give you a card if you would like one. And then after you've written your question, you can raise your hand again and pass it over, and the usher will collect it and give it to our question facilitators tonight, who are Andrew Olson and Mary Allen. As always, we want to remind you that League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences policy through education and advocacy. We never endorse parties or candidates. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Sig Johnson. Sig has been a member of the St. Paul League of Women Voters for many years. She served as president, co-president, newsletter editor, and most often as voter service chair. And in that role, she organized candidate forums like this one and voter registration events. The State League has certified Sig as a moderator, allowing her to lead events such as this. She's also served as a head election judge in Ramsey County for many years, so we're excited to have Sig moderating our forum tonight. So I'll turn things over to you, and we'll get started. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, and welcome, audience and candidates. And we wish to thank the City of Rosemount for the use of these council chambers and for their willingness to broadcast and record tonight's event. Besides turning your cell phones off, will you please hold any applause until the end? The rules for tonight: the candidates will have 2 minutes each for an opening statement. And then candidates will have 1 minute for to respond to each of the questions. And you're encouraged to write questions on 3x5 cards, hold them up and hand them to the ushers who okay, lady in the black sweater. And then the order that the candidates will ask has been rotated randomly, so that no one candidate is the first to answer a question and no one gets the last word. All questions submitted by email were reviewed and edited by a committee of League members. And questions submitted tonight will be reviewed by Mary Allen and Andrew Olson here. Not that they would change your meaning, but quite often we get similar questions, and they can be combined into one question. Our timers are Mary Knopfler and Liz Carlson, and they will hold up signs and a stop sign, because we have to keep to a strict time rule here. And we ask the candidates to respect these time limits. It's hard to cut off a thought, but do your best. The forum will conclude at 8:30. Now, tonight, we have the candidates. I'll name them off for people who are not here and maybe can't see that they have name temps. Alphabetically, there's Joel Albright, Maggie Bruecken, Rebecca Gierok, Curtis Henry. Laura Holm is a candidate, but she was unable to come tonight. Gary Huusko, Sachin Isaacs, Cory Johnson, Jackie Magnuson, and her name was not printed in the program, but she had a change in schedule, and we're happy to see her here tonight. Two other candidates, Angela Noonan is unable to attend tonight, and Kristin Schaub is unable to attend tonight. And last candidate is Hannibal Smith. All right, we're ready to start, and the opening statements will be alphabetical, starting with Joel Albright.
Well, thank you. My name is Joel Albright. I am currently on the school board. I have been on the school board for the past 16 years. A little bit about my background. I grew up in Lake City, Minnesota, so I am a true Minnesotan. My family and I moved to Apple Valley in 1995 when my children were 1 and 4 years old, and they went fully through the ISD 196 school system and are happily graduated and off on their own now. I'm running to stay on the school board because I feel that I am making an impact, making a positive impact on this school district and the decisions that are being made to run the school district, and I would like to continue to do that. I believe that the school district is on the right track in most things. Obviously, there are things that we can improve on, and we are working on that, and we are continuing to improve everywhere we can. In my time on the school board, I have served on all of the board committees, the legislative committee, the curriculum committee, the policy committee, and the budget committee, in addition to a number of advisory councils for the district, the Special Education Advisory Council and the Legislative Advisory Council. And so I'm happy to stand on my record, and be happy to discuss that with anyone. But the most important thing on the ballot this year, much more important than anyone sitting at this table, is the levy. And I strongly encourage everyone to get out and vote yes for the levy so that we can continue to provide quality service for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Maggie Bruecken.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight, as well as the City of Rosemount for hosting us. And to all of you for attending, thank you. I'm running for school board because I love District 196. I believe we have an amazing community of teachers and students, families and neighbors, and I'm really thankful for what the district has offered my own children. With that said, when it comes to kids, there's always room to do better. Our district and our community are changing, and in two key ways. First, we have a growing district with an increasingly lean budget, and our student population is diversifying, with 1/3 of our students identifying as students of color. Given the changes in our community and our world, it is time that we evaluate what our district is doing well and what we could be doing better to meet the needs of all students. A changing context requires more innovation to raise the bar for all students. I am prepared to stand with our community to bring that change, and I'm well positioned to do so because of my qualifications. I am a mother to 2 students in the district. Henry attends Scott Highlands Middle School, and Isabel is at Diamond Path Elementary. I am a former special education paraprofessional and teacher, and a former 7th and 8th grade language arts teacher. And I currently serve as the chief of staff at an education advocacy nonprofit where we work to ensure teachers have a leading voice in the policies and practices that impact their teaching profession and classroom. I love District 196, and that is why I'm running. I believe all students deserve access to a quality education and that our community is our greatest asset. When schools and communities work well together, our property values increase, but more importantly, our quality of life improves because we are more connected to the people we live around. Thank you.
Maggie Bruecken.
No, that was Maggie.
That was Maggie.
I'm
I'm Rebecca.
I am Maggie. This is Rebecca.
Nope, that's,
Rebecca Gierok.
yes. I am Rebecca Gierok, and I'm running because representation matters. I'm a graduate of this school district and have a knowledge-based historical context of this district. I am a parent to 3 kids currently in the district, Nathan and Eva in 8th and 6th at Falcon Ridge, and Owen in 3rd at Echo Park. I'm a woman, which you may or may not know. Of the 7 current board members, there is only 1 woman currently serving. And I'm already very involved at both a community and district level, serving as the co-chair of our Legislative Advisory Council. I have 3 priorities that I will introduce to you. I want to make sure that we work with government to properly fund education. As you know, probably very well, the levy is before us just for that reason. Government has underfunded education for a number of years, and it has been left to taxpayers through the form of levy referendums to pay for that education. 2, to meet students where they're at. As Maggie reflected, we have a lot of students coming at us with varied needs, including mental health problems, poverty, and special ed. And I want to make sure that we're equipped and we're equipping our teachers and staff to meet them. And then finally, allow teachers to teach by removing roadblocks and any other paperwork that makes it difficult to serve the kids who they're really here to serve. So thank you very much.
Curtis Henry.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out on probably maybe our last nice evening of the fall. So I am a transplant. I grew up in Blaine and transplanted down to the district because my wife is an Apple Valley graduate. And so when we got married, we moved down to the district. That was about 17 years ago. I have 2 children that are currently enrolled at Rosemount High School, a freshman and a junior. My wife is a paraprofessional at Rosemount Elementary School. I've been actively involved in the community with my kids since they were born, whether it's helping out with the schools, serving as a scout leader at both the Cub Scout level and also as a founder of a Boy Scout troop focused on special needs scouts. Mentored 5 boys to Eagle. I have served as a coach at RAAA, so basically anything I could do to help the community, I'd always step up to do that. My 3 priorities, if elected to the board, is bringing some fiscal responsibility to the board, obviously, or to the district. Obviously, we're running a significant deficit, and some hard choices need to be made, unfortunately. But I want to make sure that we provide as high a quality education that we can to the children while being good stewards of our taxpayer money. The second priority is to promote trade schools as actively as they promote 4-year traditional college at the high school level. My daughter comes home from freshman orientation, deeply concerned that she needs to take a language because she's going to need to go to college. That may not be the case. And finally, to bring some diversity to the board. When you look at the board right now, there's the current average tenure is about 18 years, and there are a very limited voice of parents on the board. So I'd like to get some more voice for parents on the school board.
Gary Huusko.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum, and to our viewing audience, both those of you here watching us live and those at home watching on TV. I'm Gary Huusko. I'm a former member of the District 196 School Board. I decided to run for election again to continue working towards narrowing the achievement gap, keeping our district fiscally responsible, and providing more opportunities for our students to succeed in wherever life may take them after high school. I'm married and I have 2 children who are educated in District 196 schools, Woodland Elementary, Dakota Hills Middle School, and Eagan High School. I've lived in Eagan for 24 years. We moved here because of the reputation that the district had. I've been active as a volunteer in the schools that my kids have attended, including at the district level. I'm currently on the Legislative Advisory Council. I was on the Budget Advisory Council, and I'm currently on the District 186 Foundation Board. I've also been active in local chambers of commerce. I've chaired both boards of the Dakota County Regional Chamber and the Apple Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm an attorney by trade and have led as chair of the board several civic and philanthropic organizations in the area. I've also been the president of both the Apple Valley and the Eagan Rotary Clubs. I look forward to tonight's forum for you to get to know me and the other candidates better. Thank you.
Sachin Isaacs.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for hosting us, and thank you, SIC, for hopefully keeping us all in control. My name is Sachin Isaacs, and I have the great privilege of being on the school board. I gotta be honest and say, outside of my personal life, this has been the most meaningful opportunity that I've had. As a member of the school board, I've been able to bring in the perspectives of a first-generation immigrant, and a perspective of a parent with a child in the district, and a parent of minority descent. And I think these perspectives, although don't necessarily qualify me to be on the board, brings a different voice and a different way to looking at things. And I've been truly grateful for the wonderful embrace that I've received from my current board members and the administration as well. What qualifies to me for being on the board is the chances I've had to lead several committees throughout my time on the board. Also being my educational background as a Master's of Business Administration, and professionally being in senior executive roles in Fortune 500 companies. This has given me great opportunities to look at things from a different perspective and add light to the conversations in a more enriched and nuanced way. As I make my case to continue to be on the board, I will commit to you, as I have in the past, to bringing fresh perspectives, diversity of thought, so that our kids can continue to be successful in the 21st century. I'm truly, truly grateful that my candidacy has been endorsed by our wonderful teachers union, our bus drivers union, St. Paul Federation, and key stakeholders of our community. Again, thank you for hosting us, and I look forward to a wonderful conversation this evening.
Cory Johnson.
Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Cory Johnson. Thank you for inviting me to participate in the forum tonight, and a special thank you to the League of Women Voters of Dakota County for hosting us. I am running for school board because I'm passionate about education. As the first person in my immediate family to attend college, I joined the military in order to finance my post-secondary aspirations. While deployed overseas, I spent my free time volunteering with refugee children. We would stock newly built schools and with school supplies and play with the kids to show them around their new campus. For most of these kids, it was the first time they ever had a chance to attend school, and for some of the girls, it was the first time they were even allowed. Watching these kids grow and see the excitement that they had around learning really impressed upon me the importance of public education in our community. When I returned home, I started a family of my own and continued to invest in education through them. My wife and I have 2 children in the district. My son Wesley is in 1st grade, and my daughter Gwendolyn will be starting kindergarten next fall. Professionally, I work in operations, and I serve as a leader in the diversity, equity, and inclusion field. My top priorities are to ensure our budget is balanced after the levy is voted on, and also to focus on closing the achievement gap. I appreciate the opportunity to address everyone today, and I would humbly like to ask for your consideration on November 5th. Thank you.
Jackie Magnuson.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring and organizing this event, and thank you for the people in the audience for caring about District 196. I believe we are all here for the same reason. We simply want to continue to provide outstanding opportunities for all students in District 196. I'm Jackie Magnuson. It has been my honor and privilege to serve on the board for the past 30 years. I live in Rosemount. I have 3 children who have graduated from Rosemount High School and the School of Environmental Studies. All of my children took advantage of the district's AAA philosophy, the philosophy of academics, arts, and athletics, and they were all very active in co-curricular activities. In my time on the board, I have worked with parents, students, teachers, staff, community members, local and national officials. Together, we have built a school district that is nationally recognized not only for our academic, athletic, and arts programming, but recognized for being fiscally responsible. We can all be proud of District 196. People move here because of our schools, and people want to work here because it's a great place to work. I've served on all the board committees. This year I'm serving on the Legislative Committee, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee, Gifted and Talented, Negotiations, and the CCC, that's the Community Collaboration Council. I also have served in the past on the Minnesota State School Board Association Board of Directors and the National School Board Association Board of Directors, working with boards around the state and the nation, watching them share their successes and their concerns, and also working with legislators at both the local and national levels to advocate for change. I have a master's degree in teaching and learning, and I just retired in my career as a middle school family and consumer science teacher. Thank you.
Okay. Hannibal Smith.
Why am I running for school board? First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak about the current and future state of District 196. My family has deep roots in this community. My wife and her family have been part of this community for nearly 50 years. Before having children, my wife and I lived in Minneapolis. However, when we had a child, we discussed where we could provide the best life and opportunity for our children, and we chose District 196. My wife and I appreciate the life that was afforded to her by her community and knew that we would love to provide the same for our 2 children, ages 5 and 8. You will hear stories and have heard stories about people's passion for education, roots in the community. I have that, but that's not the story I want to tell today. The story I want to tell is the story of the people that are underrepresented and disenfranchised in this district. I find this and my background is why I'm running for school board. I'm proud to say I live in this community. However, we can all agree that change is happening. We need to make sure that we prepare for the future for all, not just some. We have a growing community with younger people, of different races and backgrounds. To say that the current board represents our community would be a fallacy. Our current board is currently representing mostly white senior citizen males. If we look at a picture and our children look at this picture, they're not going to see themselves in their leadership. I think it's very important that our children see themselves. Also, I feel that we have an antiquated 20th century idea of what education is. I feel that this is something that needs to change, and only with parents assisting with this will we be able to make this change. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And now we are going to start our first series of questions, and you'll have 1 minute each to answer, which is practically a sound bite. And you will be called in a random order. For the first question, it will go first to Rebecca Gierok, then Jackie Magnuson, then Curtis Henry, and the rest of you will be a surprise. Okay. Do you see the question on your screen?
I see the question. What are your views on comprehensive sex education?
Okay, Rebecca Gierok.
This is an issue that was brought forward in the House of Representatives this past year under HF 1414. It did not make it out of the House. It was returned to committee, and so it did not make it to the Senate either. But I fully expect that it'll probably come up again in this next session of government. Having read the bill from top to bottom, I'm fully supportive of it. It is it's a bill that simply lays out some framework for the district to follow along and includes such things as developmentally and age-appropriate sex education, which is something we already do within our district to a great degree, so it likely wouldn't involve all that much in changes. But it also talks about things such as consent and gender identities, which I think are vitally important to today's conversations.
Okay. Jackie Magnuson?
We do have a robust system of developmentally and age-appropriate sex education in District 196. It worries me some, I have read that bill also, it worries me some when the state decides what curriculum we should use in our district and how it should be used and at what time it should be used and how it should be used appropriately. So I think that's something we want to really keep an eye on because we want it to be district-driven, not state-pushed out.
Okay. Curtis Henry?
Yeah, I too have reviewed this bill, and I have significant concerns about it as well. I believe that, as Ms. Magnuson has alluded to, I believe that this is a decision that should be made by the school district based on what they view as age-appropriate material to be used in the schools versus mandated materials from the House. And, you know, as we all know, mandated things are not funded, so it usually will cause additional problems from that aspect. But again, I believe that this sex education should be age appropriate, and it should be driven by the school board, by the administration, and by the members of the district.
Okay. Hannibal Smith?
I would also agree that this should be decided by the school district, not the state. As history has shown us, when things are unfunded mandates to districts, it usually turns out poor. We don't get the education that we're supposed to get. We have to think about our community, not the state. Our community is number one on our priority. To think about others in the state, that's every community has a different situation about how sex education should be taught. So I truly think this should be decided by our district when we feel it's appropriate and how we feel it's appropriate discussed.
Okay. Next is Gary Huusko, followed by Maggie Bruecken.
Thank you. I agree with Jackie's perspective. Anytime that we give local control over to the legislature, then we lose all control, and it ends up costing us money. The district has a pretty comprehensive and age and developmental sex education program. And we have input from the curriculum committee, so we have input from the residents and the board and the staff at the various schools. So I'm in agreement with Jackie and Curtis and Hannibal.
Maggie Bruecken?
Thanks. I believe that students learn best when all resources are brought to bear. It is essential that we provide students with the opportunity to learn how to make healthy choices, ask important questions, learn how to use preferred pronouns for different people in our schools, and learn about consent. Therefore, a comprehensive sex education plan is necessary in schools. It is our job to prepare students to become active citizens in our community and to be responsible. And sex education is a part of being a well-rounded citizen.
Okay. Next is Joel Albright, followed by Sachin Isaacs.
I don't really have anything new to say that hasn't been said up here already. District 196 already does have a strong, thorough, comprehensive sex education program for our students. And there are some good things that were in that bill, and it will be brought up again, as Rebecca said. But the main thing is that we don't need St. Paul deciding how we teach in District 196. The local control is very important. That's why we have local school boards. And, we are close to the people, we're close to the parents. The parents let us know what they want their children to learn. And it's just one of those things that I think that we do a good job of it already, and I don't think we need the state stepping in and telling us how to do it better.
Sachin Isaacs.
Thank you, Sig. A couple things. First of all, what I don't like about this is the whole idea we've talked about is local administrative control. This is where these decisions need to be made. That aside, what I do like about this bill is that it takes a scientific approach to human anatomy. It talks about gender-neutral conversation. It talks about consent, which again, in the hypersexualized pop culture world we live in, is critically important, especially in the backdrop of what's going on. I do like the approach that they're taking in terms of being more evidence-based. I think it's the right framework. That being said, it needs to be interpreted and implemented in a way that is about local control, local adaptation, and local implementation. But the framework is solid, and I support it. Thank you.
Cory Johnson, and you will be the first on the next question.
Well, thank you. I support age-appropriate sex education led by the district. I, too, have read HF 1414, and it does give general guidelines that's scientific in nature. However, I do feel that these issues, we have curriculum committees in the district to decide these issues, and it's best decided at the local level. Thank you.
Okay, next question. If you are going to change anything about the district, what would you change? And Cory Johnson start, followed by Rebecca Gierok.
I want to start off by saying I love our district. It is a fantastic district to live in and to have your kids educated in. I've been out talking to voters since I decided to file for my candidacy, and one recurring theme that I've heard talking to educators, committee members, parents, even students is that sometimes they feel that their voices aren't being heard. So if there's one thing maybe I could change about District 196, it would be about finding additional ways to interact with these groups, to look at ways to improve, to hear their thoughts, to hear their concerns, to hear their ideas, and to hear what's important to them.
Okay, Rebecca Gierok, followed by Hannibal Smith.
I would agree with Cory. I think communication has been and continues to be our greatest opportunity as a district, whether it be at the school board level, which is not a well-attended meeting or a highly engaged meeting. We have an opportunity to change that, right? Bring it to different communities and not just keep it at Dakota Ridge in the Rosemount community, though that's a great setting for it as well. But not highly accessible to most of our community. It's at one edge of our district, and it's not available by bus route. So it cuts off a big area of our community from attending something that might be really vital to their kids' education, such as school board.
Okay, Hannibal Smith, followed by Sachin Isaacs.
I'm going to kind of take a different turn on this. I would like to enact into our curriculum K through 12 finance. I think this is important to our future as a country. Finance is something that is going out of control. We're going into debt. We're not able to balance budgets locally and nationally. I think you ask any wealthy person, how did you become wealthy? It's not by smarts. It's not by hard work all the time. It's about how to manage money. I think this is very important for our kids to start as soon as they get into kindergarten. What is money? What do you do with a budget? What's an investment? How do you read a contract when you're older? When you're signing online, those agreements that you check the box to, what does that agreement say? Does that affect you financially, or is that just take all your information away from you and your ability to continue as a civil servant?
Sachin Smith, Sachin Isaacs,
I got you, Sec.
followed
Thank
by
you.
Joel.
Yeah, there's not many
Joel
sections
Smith.
around.
Joel Albright.
So I think there are three elements that kind of stick to my mind, right? I think we can do better in closing the achievement gap. Looking at cognitive, non-cognitive factors, for example, food insecurity directly correlated to academic outcomes. How can we do better with that? Solvable problems in America, of course, right? Number two, how do we better support our special education kids? Starts by making sure that we're getting the appropriate financial funding, and we, as leaders in education, need to make our case stronger and better at St. Paul. Last but not least, how do you get better community integration? How do we make outreach? Sometimes being a first-generation immigrant, I can tell you, opening the door isn't enough. You got to reach out in hand. How do we do that? I've been holding monthly community meetings since the time I was elected, and I'm extremely proud, and it's incredibly interesting as to who comes in these meetings. That's the outreach we need to see to make sure that we're representing the voices of those who've elected us all day, every day on the school board. Thank you.
Joel Albright.
I think that the three major focuses of the levy are the main things that we're looking at changing right now if we can pass the levy. And that is to bring down class sizes, bring back teachers that, we had to lay off a decade ago when we lost 160 teachers in that round of cuts. And secondly, addressing the mental health issues that are facing all of our buildings and our students and our staff, and the funding that we would get from the levy would help us address that. And thirdly, adding activity buses back into for our middle and high schools because there's a direct correlation between student achievement and student engagement. And if we have activity buses, students will be able to stay after school and engage more and get better results. So the things that we're addressing in the levy are the things that I would like to see changed. Thank you.
Curtis Henry.
A lot of great ideas that are coming out from fellow candidates. Obviously, one of my priorities is focusing on the trades. I'd like to see the trades programs at the high schools to increase. I'm finding there are a lot available, but it's a future career for a lot of our students that are available to them, that can provide them strong income throughout the rest of their life. And then also in addition to that, I would like to see us add a life skills class as a requirement for graduation. Too many of our kids are graduating today without basic life skills, as it's dealing with finances, understanding what an interest rate is. It's one of those things that's, being a part of Scouts is great, that Scouts all have to take a personal management merit badge to earn Eagle, and it's amazing how much these boys learn about the cost if you put something on a credit card at the end of the 5 years making minimum payments, how much you actually paid for an item. And I think a lot of our kids don't understand that. They just see the card and free money. Thank you.
Okay. Gary Huusko.
Well, in general, the district does many things very well. One of the things, though, that I think the district should be addressing is creatively examining the school start times, particularly adjusting start times for high school students while minimizing any effects on other students. Yesterday, I was at Feed My Starving Children with the group of Interact students, which is a Rotary group of students at Eagan High School, and I asked them about this question, and almost to a T, they are resounding absolutely 100%. They were juniors, and they complained that if they have a hard class first hour, they cannot function and they don't do well in that class. Studies have shown that later start times for high school students reduce absences and tardiness. They increase their alertness and engagement in class and increase final grades by 4.5%. They help students combat the symptoms of chronic sleep depression, such as fatigue deprivation, depression. Thank you.
Jackie Magnuson.
If I could wave my hand and change something, I would I would be at the State Department, and I would change the fact that the district has to go out to vote on levy referendums. We've cut $7 million this year. We're looking at an $18 million cut if our levy referendum doesn't pass. We use that money to fund teachers. Teachers are the people who stand in front of your kids every day and touch their hearts. Joel talked about, we've talked about all the different things that our levy referendum is going to do. Changing class size, putting that transportation for middle and high school kids, even if they want to stay after to see a teacher to get homework, if they want to do a debate session, if they want to play a sport, and mental health. Those are the three areas that we've identified that we need help in right now. And if I was in the state, I would say school districts shouldn't have to spend the exorbitant amount of time that we have to do in changing and having local people vote on school elections like that.
Maggie Bruecken.
Thank you. I would love to see the district prioritize increasing teacher diversity to reflect the race, gender, and social makeup of the students that they are in front of every day. I read a study recently that if students have at least one teacher of color in grades 3 through 5, it reduces a student's probability of dropping out by 29%, which is a substantial amount. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're ready for question number 3. If the levy does not pass, what will be the impact on students of this district? And the first speaker, it would be Jackie Magnuson, followed by Gary Huusko.
You will see a district that you won't recognize. We have a district right now that people want to come to. If we have to do $18 million worth of cuts in the next 2 years, you won't recognize this district. The things that we have prided ourselves on and patted ourselves on the back won't be here. This year, just with the $7 million cuts, it's been tearful when I sit at curriculum and advisory committees and have a dad of a third grader say, if I would have realized that there would have been that many people, that many kids in his class this year, we may have thought through what we did this year, meaning maybe we should have gone someplace else. I think we can do better. I think that everybody needs to get out and support the levy because it's our community, it's our choice, but we don't want our property taxes to fall because our schools aren't good. So thank you.
Okay. Gary Huusko, and next Cory Johnson.
Well,
Gary.
the students will all have more fellow students in their classrooms. They're going to have less one-on-one time with their teachers because the teachers are going to be spread too thin. They won't have the opportunity to participate in after-school activities unless their parents pick them up and drop them off. More important than any vote for any of us candidates is a vote for the levy. The cost of the levy is far outweighed by the benefits that we give our students and our home values. You talk to any realtor and they tell you people move into this district because of the schools. The houses sell faster. They sell for more than they do in neighboring school districts.
Okay. Cory Johnson, followed by Maggie Bruecken.
If the levy doesn't pass, class sizes will increase. Less parents will want to send their kids to the district. Our home values will start to go down. Your neighbors will start to sell their homes for less and less value because less people want to be here. Less students will attend after-school co-curricular activities because they don't have transportation. Students could continue to go with less mental health support than they need, which is a large concern of mine. As a lot of my fellow candidates have mentioned, more than voting for anyone here today is voting for the levy to ensure that it passes so that our students don't have to suffer through these cuts.
Okay. Maggie Bruecken.
Thank you. If the levy does not pass, as many have said, we will see an increase in class sizes, and that's due to teacher cuts. This will have a direct impact on students as well as teacher retention because In my experience when I was teaching, anytime my class size exceeded 22 students, I found that my ability to be effective and really impact students was diminished. And so I think it is really important, just based on the class sizes and what that does for student outcomes and teacher retention, it is very important that we vote yes for this levy. Thank you.
Okay, Rebecca Gierok, followed by Joel Albright.
Yeah, so I think it's important that we, as other candidates have, put the student front and center in this conversation. And conveniently, I think of my own 3 children, and they are fortunate, I think, to have a very stable home with 2 parents who are very involved. But that's not the case for all of our students, and should the levy not pass, some of the programs that they're already or possibly not seeing will be cut further, right? And we're already seeing some cuts. We're definitely already seeing it in our classrooms. The teacher-student ratio is already up, as Jackie mentioned, and further programming such as, like band and extracurriculars, which we tend to think of as a given, will start to disappear, and our students' classes and experience will not look the same.
Okay. Joel Albright.
Again, not much new to say other than what's been said here already. The biggest impact on students will be the increase in class size, and that will be at all levels. This year, with the $7 million that we had to adjust in the budget, all our class sizes went up by an average of half a student. And that doesn't sound like much, but across a district, it adds up. A future cut, if we don't pass the levy, that number will go up significantly. But longer term, the impact will be that we will be able to provide not as good quality of education as we have prided ourselves on in the past, and that could in turn lead to people leaving the district, and eventually, we're right now in a great position where we're growing, and we're growing at a good, controllable pace, but if we start declining in population, that would be, just compound the problems of not passing the levy. Vote yes.
Hannibal Smith.
I agree with everybody, of course. I do support this levy, as do all the candidates up here. There will have to be major changes to our district if this doesn't pass. However, when I was interviewing with the unions and asked for their endorsement, I was giving them hard truths. And I told them if this does not pass, they will be affected as well. That's why I did not get their endorsement. I was not going to make anything glossy for them. I'm honest. Everybody will be affected by this. We have to be serious about this. We need this to pass. However, if it does not pass, everybody in our district will be affected by this. The one thing I do want to make sure everybody recognizes is we did have incumbents and legislators working on this for many years. They put us in this situation. We have to remember that they are the ones that are to blame for us to be in this situation, to ask taxpayers for this money.
Curtis Henry.
Well, like with any business or household that you don't have as much money to do what you want to, you have to tighten your belt and really look at what are the priorities of the school. I spent a lot of time over the last few weeks really diving into the financials of both District 196 and our neighboring districts, and I believe there are possibly, if we need to, cuts that can be made that have minimal impact on our children. Not going to go into a lot of detail right now just because of the time constraints, but there are areas in our budget that we could privatize that would ease the burden a little bit, from bus services, lunch services. These are all things that could be privatized and help alleviate, impact on the children as far as increasing class sizes. It's always frustrating. A lot of people have told me on the campaign trail is that they don't like when the government threatens them with, we're going to make your life bad if you don't pass this. And so I think we just need to be creative and make sure that if it if it doesn't pass, that we find ways to make the classroom still work.
Okay. Sachin Isaacs.
Thank you. This is an important last word, so I'm going to take this very seriously. I want to keep it focused on our students. We moved to this district because of its AAA philosophy of being co-curriculars, not extracurriculars, co-curriculars. Having athletics, arts, and academics together is a holistic, well-rounded experience. Without this levy, it will significantly erode that experience. We will have larger class sizes, fewer choices in arts programming, and fewer athletic options as well. This is not the direction that we're sitting in. This is not what we want to happen. And in order for us to continue to perform as a strong district, we have to look at these co-curriculars in exactly the way they are. They are co-curriculars. And with this levy, we will be able to continue to evangelize, increase, and expand on the value that they bring to our district. Please do support this. I support it, and all of us over here support it as well. Thank you.
Okay. Are you ready for number 4?
It's a big one.
Do you see the role of board members' relationship to the school administrators as one of providing direction only, or as one of support? What makes a board member effective? And to start us off is Maggie Bruecken, followed by Curtis Henry and Gary Huusko.
Great, thank you. I believe the role of school board members is governance, in that the board works toward the establishment of policies and continuously monitors the implementation of practices with care, while supporting the district's mission of educating students to reach their full potential. So I believe the teachers, principals, support staff, that they are the leaders in the buildings, and that the board serves to advise and support, while the experts lead on that change.
Curtis Henry.
Yeah, I believe the responsibilities of a board member is to be the voice of the citizens of the district, to listen to the needs of the district, listen to the voices of the district, and be the connecting piece between that and the administration. Hopefully we can get, more citizen involvement by, some of the things that were brought up earlier, by making the school board more accessible. But we should be the sounding board for ideas and policies that are implemented at the district level.
Gary Huusko.
I think the board members' relationship should be both providing direction and one of support. At the end of the day, we're elected by the voting residents of the district, and we have to count to them, but that doesn't mean that we have a blind eye towards the administration. That we hire good administrators to run the schools, to run the district. We have to rely on their expertise. At the same time, we have to question them if we need more information, or if we don't understand, or if we have questions about the direction that they are going, because we're accountable to the residents. And I think that what makes a board member effective is the ability to get along with everybody, and to be able to effectively communicate, whether you're talking to a school administrator or your neighbor, or a teacher or a student group.
Okay. Joel Albright, followed by Hannibal Smith.
Technically, the board's responsibility is to set policy, set the budget, hire the superintendent. That's really the roles of the school board. The reality is that it's really a collaborative relationship between the administration and the board. As far as the board needs to be educated on all issues that come before the board, and it's the administration's role to provide the education and the needed information so that the board can make educated decisions. And at the same time, then, once the board makes decisions and the administration is enacting it, the administration does need the support of the board to do their job and to do it well. So it's definitely not a silo thing. The administration and the board should work together, and in this district, we do work together. And what makes board members effective is the ability to work together like that. Thank you.
Hannibal Smith, followed by Cory Johnson.
I feel the role of the school board is to provide policy,
Who do we have? Jackie Magnuson.
The best board members, I think, are the best listeners. And the ability to work with our citizens, that is our goal, is to bring back, and our district is built on what our citizens and what our community wants. Our job is to set policy, set budget, hire the superintendent. But in all of that, we're also the communication with the community. There's been a lot of talk about maybe we should move board meetings someplace else, or maybe we need to have more communication. The district has a lot of communication avenues set up, a lot of different committees, and a lot of work is done at committee levels. And that's a great place, and that's where I find I get a lot of interesting ideas, is at the committee levels that the district has set up, and also other places. But a board role is to advise and support and set the policies, the budget, and hire the superintendent.
Gary Huusko.
I already responded to this one. Or is it a new one?
No.
No, you did the
I'll volunteer to go next.
Oh,
I believe the role of the school board is not to govern, but it is to ensure proper governance. It is our role to make sure that we have the right people in the right spot and we support them in a way that helps them do their job to the best of their abilities. We have the most authentic, wonderful educators in our system, and we have to find ways to support them so that they can do their jobs to the best of their abilities, and they do that all day, every day. What makes a board member effective to me are two main things: humility, understanding who we are and who we're not, and understanding when to lean and ask for support when that is needed. Collaboration with our community members, so making sure that that voice is translated through us into the running of our school, and collaboration with each other and our administrators to making sure that at the end of the day, the feet that our kids touch is no more noble ground than that common ground that we have. We got to focus on that and make sure that all stakeholders are there to make sure that their futures are as bright can be. Thank you.
Okay. Rebecca Gierok.
Thank you. So I think our role as a school board would be to provide guidance and support. I tend to take a bit of a broader perspective on this than what you've heard already, and I would like to expand our responsibilities to include not only our community members, but also our elected officials, to make sure that our representatives and our senators are hearing from us on a regular basis about district priorities. And that is something that we already do, and we could do a great deal more. We do already work very collaboratively between our unions and our superintendent, her cabinet, our administration, our staff and teachers. And so I think that's definitely important to continue. And then generally, as Sachin reflected, and several other members as well, our job is to be present and available and to listen and reflect our community's values and hopes for our kids.
Okay, we move on to question number 5. Gun violence at schools seemed like an ever-present threat. How would you, as a school board member, work to reduce that risk? And starting that off would be Sachin Isaacs, followed by Hannibal Smith.
Thank you, Sig. This is obviously a very top-of-mind issue for all of us in our community roles and our roles on the board. The levy that passed a few years ago, we were able to deploy security measures at our school that'll help find more ways to control access into our buildings. The upcoming levy, one of the key things that it does, it helps provide more mental health support within our classrooms. Many of these things go back down to access to these weapons and mental health to be able to understand the impact that they have. By making sure that we're supporting our kids to understand the impacts of what this is and picking out on those risk factors early enough will give us a great chance to work at this insight. Candidly, gun control is a larger societal issue, and we need to work across the board with our elected officials and others so access can be managed to these dangerous weapons. Thank you.
Hannibal Smith, followed by Jackie Magnuson.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think guns are not necessary in the schools. To have any sort of gun on the property or in the school is definitely not something I support. I think the last bond did provide physical barriers to make it a little bit harder for an active shooter or any sort of threat of that sort. So I do appreciate that last bond being used for that. I do agree that if this levy does pass, our mental health professionals do need to be hired to actively find students that are having trouble, either fitting in or feeling bullied or any of that sort of issues that might be going on with a student or even a teacher. I think all staff has to have that mental health aspect brought to them as well. They should not feel alone in this issue, in this battle for the safety of our schools.
Jackie Magnuson,
The
followed by
last bond issue did give us
Rebecca.
those, our last bond issue did give us those safe and secure entryways. And you see that at every school, where you go in and you have to put on your driver's license and you get a badge that says who you are and what you're doing in the building. The other exterior doors are locked during the day. We have cameras now where we didn't have cameras before. We had a lot of cameras, but now we have updated cameras, and that is helping. I agree that the mental health piece in the bond issue or the levy referendum coming up will help a lot. We don't have enough mental health people in in our schools, and kids need that support. When we're looking at things that are coming up, we work really closely with the cities, with the state, and with the national government as far as ideas of what is working in other places and what can we do. So we keep on working with that to hopefully alleviate any gun violence.
Rebecca Gierok.
So I've been an active member of Moms Demand Action for the last several years. Really, Parkland, really, if not the several school shootings before it, really made me wake up to understand that this is a real issue that must be dealt with. So I'm supportive of background checks and red flag laws. And in our schools specifically, I'd like to make sure that we are running active shooter drills, not at a student level necessarily, but more at a teacher and a staff level, so that we aren't drawing out the anxiety in our kids or traumatizing them unnecessarily. So yeah.
Okay. Maggie Bruecken?
Thanks. I will echo much of what has been said. This is a very important issue. Like it's been mentioned, the bond that we had did take care of some security measures in our schools, as well as the levy coming up for the increased mental health services that could be provided. I also think that instituting restorative practices in schools is another method and practice we could try, so that when someone in the school is harmed, we use restoration to get the community back in place. That could help prevent gun violence. And finally, to continue to fight and advocate for strong gun control laws is very important.
Sachin Isaacs?
I went on this, I was the first person to go.
Yes, you did. I'm getting duplicates on the numbers. Cory Johnson?
I'm a parent to kids in the district, and I can tell you this as a parent, this concerns me every single day. I watch the news and I see what's happening, and it's something we really need to take seriously. I think one of the things we can do is really continue to talk about and advocate for the levy, because that increase in mental health services will truly have an impact on this. When we talk about policies that are happening at state and federal levels, a lot of it should be geared to mental health. Unfortunately, that's outside of the district's control, but it is something that we can continue to fight and advocate for. Also, at a district level, we can continue just to reinforce those policies that we already have, the anti-bullying, non-discrimination, harassment policies, and set up safe avenues for students to feel comfortable reporting when they do have a concern. Thank you.
Okay. Joel Albright?
As mentioned many times already, the last bond that was passed gave us funds to provide security measures for our schools. So first and foremost, thank you to the voters of our district who allowed us to do that. And so in addition to the secure entrances that we now have at our buildings and the updated and additional cameras that we have in place, that bond allowed us to create a full-time position of someone who's dedicated to nothing but the safety and security of our buildings. That used to be part of somebody else's job, and now it's somebody concentrating on that full-time. But as also has been mentioned here many times, the main thing that we need to focus on is mental health issues, and passing the levy that's in front of the voters this fall will go a long way toward helping us do that.
Okay. Curtis Henry?
Yeah, luckily, most of our schools have the security measures in place. When I initially was bringing my children to school, it was usually a person sitting at a desk at the front door, and to me that never seemed very secure. And now there is access points where you can't get into the school without going through an office, without going through some secured area. I think the biggest issue that we need to focus on is the mental health piece. In a lot of these school shooters, these children have been identified as at risk, and people were notified, people knew that these children were likely to do something, and nothing was done in the fear of upsetting the apple cart or hurting their feelings. If a student is at risk, we need to identify them and work with local officials to make sure that they don't have access to firearms, or that they can get the care that they need to prevent this from happening. So it's, again, identifying and acting when we identify a student or a staff member that could potentially do this.
Okay. Gary Huusko?
Well, I was on the school board when we first started discussing and initiated the steps to increase security at our schools. And I'll echo Joel. We are very appreciative of the residents voting in favor of that bond referendum, because it was needed. And you walk into the schools now, you've got one unlocked door to go to, and then right into the office, and your picture's put on your name tag. So if you're walking around the school, people will know who you are, and that I had the occasion to visit an elementary school in the district Monday morning to make a presentation on behalf of the District 196 Foundation. And it was a school I hadn't been in for years. And I walked into the I walked in where the students walked in. And I was immediately approached by a teacher to ask me if I needed help to get to where I was going. And when I explained to her, she walked me to the office. So I think that our teachers are being engaged, and we should encourage more of that.
Okay. Question number 6. Okay. District 196 has an equity and inclusion program. To what extent should District 196 seek parental engagement in crafting the future of that program? And we begin with Curtis Henry, followed by Sachin Isaacs.
Well, definitely, I think that the biggest thing with any program in the school is to have parent engagement in the practice. I mean, in an ideal world, everything would be perfectly homogeneous or heterogeneous, that we'd have a nice mix of everybody, but unfortunately, it depends on where we live. I mean, we have a predominantly, white suburban area, but we need to make sure that, all students, parents, faculty, citizens are feel welcome in the district. And, we definitely need more involvement from parents, because that will help determine the needs that they have.
Okay. Sachin Isaacs.
Thank you. I was really honored to be the part of the foundational program that put in the first 3-year equity and inclusion framework in place. Equity and inclusion just doesn't mean people of my skin tone. It means people of different gender orientations as well, so on and so forth. I do believe that stakeholders in here aren't just parents. They need to start with students, include parents, and also include our educators as well. This is a journey of togetherness. Diversity is not just for people of my skin tone. It makes the community stronger. The richness of our fabric is better when we're together stronger in it. So I believe that it's a multi-dimensional stakeholders that need to be part of framing this, building this, and implementing this throughout our district. Thank you.
Joel Albright, followed by Jackie Magnuson.
I want to echo a lot of what Sachin said, other than the skin color thing, because obviously he has a different perspective on that than I do. And the concept of equity and inclusion is kind of a hot button thing right now that some people kind of get bent out of shape on. And it's one of those things that we have to recognize that we are living in a more diverse community all the time, and not just by race, but by gender and gender identity. But also within our district, we've got so many different languages spoken. I believe when I started on the board, we had 53 languages in the district, and now we have 130 some. So we need to continue to address issues of equity and inclusion, and we do need to have all stakeholders have a voice in that.
Jackie Magnuson.
I would agree that we need to have all of our stakeholders, as we always do in any district-wide initiative, that we have all of our stakeholders at the table, whether that be teachers, students, parents, community members, anybody, that I agree wholeheartedly that we need to have all of our stakeholders in that program. And it depends on, this is a hot button topic, and we are more diverse, but the district has done a lot of different things to help with inclusion in all the way across the board, and I think we just need to keep working on that, so thank you.
Cory Johnson, followed by Hannibal Smith.
I'm a firm believer that our differences should be celebrated, and that's what makes us stronger. When we're talking about diversity and inclusion, our students at school is just one part of it. They have a whole home life, they have working with their teachers, co-curricular activities, and I do believe in that holistic approach when we're talking about designing an equity and inclusion program. Students should be allowed to bring their whole selves to the classroom, everything that they come with and everything that makes them unique. And we should be able to look at that and celebrate that. And getting the buy-in and support of parents and teachers is going to be how we accomplish that.
Okay. Hannibal Smith?
Thank you. I do agree that parents should be brought in and engaged in this conversation. As
diversity of income levels, as well as representation from the LGBTQ community. I think we could also activate the leaders that are at Glacier Hills School. Right now, they are providing a great model for how to uplift all students in a learning community. There was recently a news article about the strategies they are implementing, and it's something that we could all learn from.
Let's see. Rebecca Gierok.
Yeah, so whether we like it or not, decisions are made by the people who show up and who are in the room. And so I think it's really incumbent upon us to make sure that we, as Sachin previously said, that we don't just open the door, but that we reach out a hand and make sure that the conversation is broadened to all of our community members, whatever their ability might be, because they're all important decision makers and all have a very different perspective on what our schools need and what makes them successful.
Gary Huusko?
It's easy going last here because I agree with a lot of what has been said. When I was reading the question, I thought, well, hasn't the district sought parental engagement? And I would have been very surprised if the district didn't seek out the engagement of all of the with the students and the parents and the teachers and the mental health professionals. Anything that the district has done, any decision that's made, they make sure that they've listened to everything, that they've sought out information that they don't have, and that they welcome the comments and opinions of any of the stakeholders that the district represents.
Okay. We're going to have one more question and then the closing statements. And the computer put Gary Huusko at the beginning.
Okay.
Early childhood family education has been proven to have long-term benefits. How can District 196 increase participation?
I think the district could increase participation by making the programs that we have more readily available or more known or more accessible, especially the community ed piece. children who aren't ready for school, who don't read at kindergarten or first grade level when they start school, they're already behind, and they're just going to fall farther behind. So it's important to get the parents engaged. And if we have a reading program, give books not just to the students, but give books to the parents to be, that they can have an opportunity to read to their children from the day that they were born. We read to our kids before they were born, and I am a firm believer in pre-K education.
Joel Albright, followed by Maggie Bruecken.
Very true statement. Early childhood education has been proven to have long-term benefits, and we do need to get as many early or young children into our program as possible. And I actually was talking with one of our ECFE child providers and asked specifically that question: what are we doing to make sure the word gets out about our programs? And there's a lot of outreach. I mean, we do have mailings that go out, but the main thing is there's a lot of kind of back channel things that we need to incorporate. We need to talk to like county social workers, see if they can refer some families they're working with. We can talk to healthcare providers. We can engage in social media to try and reach families that would not respond to something that comes in the U.S. mail. So yes, I think we should, and anything that we can do to increase that participation is great.
Okay. Maggie Bruecken, followed by Cory Johnson.
Thank you. When I was a new mother to an infant while also having a toddler, I was so overwhelmed, and I made use of the ECFE program in St. Paul, and it changed my life. It was so amazing. If there is a way that we can make early childhood education more accessible, we definitely should, right? Like maybe we need to reduce the cost, which I understand comes with its own struggle. However, it is the first step that both parents and children take into education, and it is such a positive experience. I also think that the more people who join into ECFE programs will start talking about them, and that word of mouth, that is free. So I think that's a really important strategy.
Okay. Cory Johnson, followed by Sachin Isaacs.
Our early childhood education is so important. I feel if you talk to just about any kindergarten teacher out there, they're going to be able to tell you that, yes, on day one of school, they can tell the difference between the kids that had early childhood education in preschool and those that maybe didn't have that opportunity. Any parent out there, and especially first-time parents out there, know that kids don't come with an instruction manual. And I ran into that when I was a first-time dad myself. And I had no idea what ECFE was when I was a new parent, and I didn't actually find out about it until I was talking with a coworker about, challenges I'm having with my kids and adapting and crying all the time and how to deal with that when they suggested, hey, you should look into your district's ECFE program. They have a lot of opportunities for that. And I had to go and look at what is this ECFE? And sure enough, I found them to have the best programs that I could have asked for at that time. I think in order to increase that participation, we just need to keep getting that word out, and that word of mouth is very valuable.
Sachin Isaacs.
Thank you, Sig. There's, like everyone said, early childhood education is directly correlated to better academic outcomes. Everyone, that's been proven time and time again. There are two things that come to my mind. Our district has an absolutely wonderful connections program. I believe that we can do better to make sure the connections program is available in as many sites possible. Number two, our ECFE program, we all talked about it. One of the critical barriers to ECFE programming is transportation. Folks, it's not more programs, it's where those programs happen. How do we think differently? First generation immigrant, I understand these firsthand. My daughter, Ayana, is a graduate of the Connections Preschool program. I see what it has done to her chances of achieving the American dream. Transportation, another big barrier to ECFE. How do we go into apartment buildings? How do we go into mosques? Places where people live, we need to meet them where they are. We got to think about it in that fashion, and I believe we can do more, and I can tell you the people here are committed to doing that. Thank you.
Okay. Rebecca Gierok, followed by Curtis Henry.
I think what is underlying most of the comments that you've already heard is money. And so I think if you do anything or you walk away, and if we haven't said it enough, vote yes for the levy, because it's much a matter of money. Transportation costs money, extra resources cost money. Reducing the access fees to ECFE costs money. And we do have really excellent programs, and many of them are limited just by the capacity of that teacher and participation, right? They've got a waiting list a mile long, and we just don't have the money to expand or add another teacher. So again, vote yes for the levy. Thank you.
Curtis Henry.
So my family has benefited significantly from this early childhood family education. My son is autistic, and once he was diagnosed, he was quickly enrolled over at early childhood education, and I think that gave him a leg up to be successful now as a mainstream high school student as a junior. I think it's making sure that parents are aware of what services are available. I know we've met lifelong friends at mommy-child events, where the kids can interact and socialize. But I think it just comes down to making sure that everybody knows what is available. I mean, I think that's, a common theme is that, money's great, but, people just don't know what services are always available to them. And some of these are no-cost opportunities for parents to get together with their children and continue to help them grow and to be, ready for kindergarten.
Okay. Hannibal Smith.
Thank you. I think communication is the issue here. Our communication of these programs is not good enough. We need to work with local leaders, activists, to let them know that we have these programs available. Unfortunately, just a mailing in the U.S. mail is not good enough. That's why the participation hasn't increased at the levels that we would like it to. It has to be in multiple languages. It cannot just be in one language. If you get mail and you're not able to read it, what good is it? It's just a piece of paper. We need to make sure that it is available to parents that have full-time jobs. I think that's something that's important because putting them in a daycare is a lot easier for a lot of parents. They need to have that ability to be able to work a full-time job, provide for their family, and also give their children an education.
Jackie Magnuson.
The district has a really robust early childhood family education program, and we all know that works full-time benefits, and that's just vital. The district does a lot of reach out, going into areas and asking, and searching out people. We have liaisons that help, so they are speaking in their language. Things are printed in their language so that they are invited into the program. That reach out is vital. Moving programs if that's necessary, that's vital too, because I agree with Sachin. If we have the program and people can't come to the program, it doesn't help. Maybe I'm not sure if we've looked at working with the county or the state to help with some of that kind of thing. The other thing that's vital and that's been a real help is that early pre-K. That's been vital for student success.
Okay. Now we're ready for the closing arguments, and we'll go in the reverse order that we had the opening statements. So, starting with Hannibal Smith.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and to the citizens in attendance, watching online, and all involved in setting up this forum. I appreciate you bearing through all of our speeches, listening to us, and being engaged with us. However, we are at a crossroads in our district. Either we make decisions for the future, or we make the same decisions we have been making since 1989. Financial literacy needs to be taught to all students to prepare them for the future. We have underprepared them for financial hardships facing our country and nation. With incredible debt, that needs to be addressed. We have people on the board that have held on to their position for a very long time. Changes that needed to be made, they have not made. We need to make sure that we do have people that are directly vested and have skin in the game. So I do ask for your vote. Please vote for me, Hannibal Smith, on November 5th.
Hi, I'm Jackie Magnuson, and I have been on the board for 30 years, and I do have skin in the game. As I have when I started, my goals are to strive for excellence, continuous improvement, working together. We don't get anywhere unless we work together. Financial responsibility and working together with everyone. The thing that didn't get talked about tonight, and I think that needs to be addressed and we need to talk about, is the achievement gap. And that's something that the district continues to work on. Right now, we've got the CCC, and that's our Community Collaboration Council. That's, I think anyone can be on that. Very interesting. We're doing a deep dive into our test scores and what that calls us to do. So there's a lot of things going on in the district. Thank you for your support. It has been my honor and privilege to be your representative for the past 30 years on the District 196 School Board.
Cory Johnson.
Months ago, I was having a conversation with my wife about whether or not I should run for school board. And as I was reflecting on it, I thought, what can I really bring to the board? I'm not a career educator, and I don't have past tenure on the board. My wife looked at me and she was adamant. That is exactly why you have to run, she said. You're a leader and a dad. You would bring a diverse perspective to the board that would only serve to make it stronger. As someone who has spent my career learning everything I can about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I realized I had tunnel vision about my own experiences that I could bring. If elected, I pledge to be a board member who will think differently, who will respectfully challenge the status quo when needed, and most importantly, actively listen to the thoughts, opinions, and ideas of our students, educators, parents, and citizens. Thank you.
Sachin Isaacs.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us. This has been the greatest privilege of my life outside of raising my family. In '99, I came here as a first-generation immigrant. For the first 10 days in the country, I survived on $1 for 3 Quick Trip hot dogs. I'm since a vegetarian. Education has been the great equalizer in my life. Today I sit in front of you as an elected member of this community that I joined back in '99 for the first time. With half a semester's worth of tuition that I came to this country, I'm sitting here as a successful citizen like you, like each of you. My perspectives on the school board are reflective of that authentic journey that I have had, and I want to make sure that each kid looks at me and says, this guy is no different than me. If he can do it, I can do it. That's the authentic message I want to give our kids, give our community. We can all succeed when we succeed together. Thank you, and please vote for me on 5th.
Gary Huusko.
I'd like to thank our hosts and the moderator and all of you in attendance here tonight, and those who are watching at home for your attention and consideration of all the candidates. I'm asking for your support. I have experience on the board as well as life experiences that make me a better choice for ISD 196 School Board. I'm known for being fiscally conservative and fiscally responsible, and for listening to our constituents and collaborating with other board members, district administration, and staff to create greater activities for our students and resolve issues of concern efficiently and fairly. I bring a unique perspective to the board as a parent of children educated in the district, as a parent of a teacher in the district, and with my past and current experiences in the district and as a community leader. I'm Gary Huusko, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Curtis Henry.
Thank you, everybody, for attending and for organizing this. I feel very blessed every morning when I wake up to know that my kids are a part of this school district. Having 2 students with special needs, I couldn't have been in a better district for these children to be given the skills to be successful adults. But I think that we definitely need some changes on the board. As I'd mentioned earlier, the average tenure of the board is 18 years. So children that are seniors in high school right now were born when most of the board members came on. We don't have enough representation of parents, since really the big focus, I know the district isn't just the kids, but the big focus is the kids. and parents don't have a voice on this board right now. I want to continue to make sure that we're fiscally responsible, that we continue to promote programs that are going to give our kids a chance to be successful when they're adults. And just again, to be a fresh face, a fresh voice on the district. Thank you.
Rebecca Gierok.
Well, thank you for your time tonight. As I mentioned, I'm a graduate, a parent of kids in the district, a woman, and an involved community member, and I bring a unique perspective if elected to the board. I know that we have a strong foundation here in District 196, one that we're all responsible for as community members for continuing forward and looking for other opportunities to make us even better. I would look for your support on November 5th. My name is Rebecca Gierok.
Maggie Bruecken.
Thanks. I want to thank you all for attending tonight's event and to the League of Women Voters for hosting us, as well as the City of Rosemount. I truly believe we have an amazing district here, and I am so honored to have my students attend school here. As a former teacher, I know firsthand the joys and challenges that educators face on a daily basis. And if elected, I am committed to advocate for policies that will affirm the identities and abilities of all students, that will retain our quality teaching force, and that will promote student outcomes and success. There's a quote from Paul Wellstone that says, "We all do better when we all do better." I am asking for the opportunity to serve this district, to do the work, to do better together. I'm asking for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Joel Albright.
First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and for everyone who showed up tonight for coming and listening. And I would like to thank everyone sitting up here at this table. Just the commitment to run for office can be very intimidating, and I appreciate all the thoughts and ideas we've heard tonight. If I'm reelected, I pledge to continue the fiscal responsibility that our board has exhibited during my time on the board, and continue to promote the policies in areas where our students are succeeding and to address the areas where they're not. I'm truly humbled and honored to have been able to represent the voters of this district on the school board for the past 16 years, and I humbly ask for your vote again this time, and again, much more importantly, please vote yes on the levy. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for giving us your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience, for the thoughtful questions. And also thank you, the Rosemount Cable TV production crew, for providing technical expertise. The video of tonight's event will be shown on the local access channel as well as the school district's system. Thank you also, League of Women Voters volunteers, for organizing this. And information on voting in the ISD 196 board election is included in your program. Everyone, Tuesday, November 5th is election day. And you can vote by absentee ballot anytime before November 4th. Thank you very much. Good night.